This week's episode is sponsored by Helio Gas Detection and the Rising Suns, the award-winning brewery here in Cork. Hi everybody and welcome to the first episode of 2024 of the Smashing Skull Sessions, and I'm delighted to bring in a friend of mine at this stage, really, Tiff Scrivener of Celestial Diadem Promotions and PR. Tiff, thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, it's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. Tell me, look, before we get stuck into stuff, how was your Christmas? Did you actually
Uh,
get to wind down?
Yes, it was really
Good.
nice. I definitely like as I'm a full-time teacher.
Yeah.
So end of term is always chaos before Christmas. But we spent it with family, which was really nice.
Brilliant.
And we've had a bit of time off, so we're on the other side now, gearing up, ready to go back to work, which is
And
yeah,
and
looking
ready to
forward
get
to
back
it.
to the main work here too. Celestial Diadem. Before we even go in about it, I love to bring people's, to go a different point of view on it because everyone sees the bands and sees the shows and they sometimes don't see what goes on behind the scenes. And I'm hoping you can shed some light on it because there's some hard work and serious graft goes into this, isn't there? A promotions
Yes.
company.
It's definitely I think is very rewarding for sure.
Yeah.
I think definitely the gigs are probably the bit where I can actually almost sit back and be like, I've done my bit. I've spent 2, 3 months, 6 months preparing
Yeah.
for a gig. I guess it's something that I've like always wanted to do.
Yeah.
Um, and I've been fortunate enough that doing something like this is fitted in around teaching.
Mm.
But it is a lot. It like organizing dates and
Yeah.
calendaring and making sure like bands are available and the logistics of getting people to places on the right day at the right time. It's definitely been an experience and a
Like
learning curve.
I would think everybody would call that a nightmare trying to work out those logistics. I mean, you take it in your stride, so obviously you actually enjoy that work.
Yes, I do. I'm definitely like an organizing
Yeah.
queen. That's my thing, really. So I think like definitely setting up Celestial Diadem has tapped into like that skill that I love. And
Yeah.
there are times when I do think, oh my God, what have I done?
Yeah. Yeah.
I did my very first January half dayer back in at the start of 2023.
That's
And
right.
that was the first sort of bigger gig where I had a 7 band bill. And I did get to about the 15th of 16th of January and thought, what have I, how am I going to get
How is it going to
seven
come
bands
together?
into one place
Yeah.
within you think that like a half day is a lot of time, but actually when you're trying to work out changeovers and set times and getting people there and sound checks, you're like,
Yeah.
nah, I haven't planned for this, but actually it went really well. So
And I was there as you know, Tiff. It was
yes.
fantastic. It was absolutely amazing. And I want to sort of go back a little bit. How did it all originate in the first place? I mean, what made you say to yourself, right, I want to start up this company?
Um, Weirdly, I actually thought let's start a promotion and gig business during lockdown,
Right.
which is not the time or
That's
the
a time.
place, really. I think I've been in, like I said, I've been in teaching for ages and I've been in several bands myself.
Okay.
I've been on that other side, like performing and sitting through sound checks. And I think I just wanted to do something that, again, like I said, taps into my skills, but
Mm.
also put something back into bands and give something back that I can
Yeah.
do for bands. Obviously, I am with Dan from Mountainscape. He's been a big driving force, and I've been really fortunate actually as a promoter that I've been able to use them as a guinea pig for everything to be able to see,
Yeah.
is this
Yeah.
going to work? Is it not going to work? Um, and I actually think one of the first things I did for Celestial Diadem was run their PR campaign when
Okay.
they released
Okay.
their very first album. So I worked alongside Dan Dolby from Trepanation Recordings. And actually, that was sort of where I wanted to go, doing sort of
Okay.
PR and media. And then got to the point where I was like, this is cool, but they need somebody to put on some gigs for them.
Hmm.
And he won't mind me saying it, but Dan is terrible at organizing stuff. So it was just never going to happen for them. And actually,
Yeah.
coming out of lockdown, it was really good to have a band that had released an album, was ready to go out there and start gigging.
Yeah.
And very quickly, sort of post metal bands started crawling out of the woodwork. And I was really fortunate to sort of be able to say, you know what, I can viably put on these smaller bands and give them a platform.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's kind of just grown from there. And obviously, I sort of had a year of putting on gigs sporadically, while sort of just finding my feet and figuring out how it's going to work for
Yeah.
me. Like I know some promoters potentially book venues and dates and then fill them with bands. I was doing a bit of both, finding bands first and then
Hmm.
finding
Hmm.
venues. And then I think from putting on that first half day, the
Yeah.
following year, then I think that sort of really boosted the yes, I want to do gigs. I want to put on events where it is a really sort of niche,
Hmm.
just post metal. Like I'm
Hmm.
very picky about what I put on, as you can see from like my
Yes.
lineup.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I don't sort of branch out into the like math side of it that quite a lot of sort of bigger festivals do.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
But I can do that because I'm playing with sort of like smaller bands at this moment.
At this moment,
I've
exactly.
got
Yeah.
bigger things in the pipeline.
I
So
mean, the bands you're picking out here, like, and the bands you've had. I mean, last year, like, obviously Mountainscape, like, I mean, what release they had, it must be a year and a half going on nearly, is it?
yeah,
What an
yeah,
album, like, and I mean, 100 Year Old Man, did a Celestial Birds, The Grey, Tacoma Narrows Bridge Disaster, like anyone who's in Novere, even this year, who released another fucking stomper of an album. Like,
yeah,
these are bands, anyone within that post genre will know these bands. So I know we sort of play it down a little bit as being underground, but for anyone within the scene, these are huge, huge shows you're putting on.
yeah. I think that's it. I think when I started, I guess
Mm.
like sort of 2, 3 years ago, um, it felt a lot more underground in the sense that there wasn't much of it happening.
Yeah. Okay.
Like we were saying, you know, if I was to act as a sort of book it, where would I go and put Mountainscape on with other like-minded bands?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I think that's what's been really enjoyable. I also, one of the most selfish reasons for starting Celestial Diadem and putting on gigs was like, I want to go to a gig where I like all of the
Yeah.
bands
Yeah.
rather
Yeah.
than potentially missing the headline, like the main support, or I
Yeah.
want to put on gigs that I would want to go to. Um, Rather than just sort of picking out the odd band that I'm like, yeah, I like them, but I'm not really sure about the others.
And something, you're spot on, because that's the reason I traveled last year, was because, a half day, or sometimes, I know it's only a plane right away, like, but sometimes you say, look, fuck it.
Yeah,
I like three of the six. I leave this one
yeah,
off and hopefully I'll catch them again. But all six, if you're into that scene, like, it's fuck it, a Willy Wonka's chocolate factory of music.
yeah.
It's
I think that's
unbelievable.
what's been
Like,
really encouraging as
yeah.
well. Lots of the bands that have played it were very much like it was such a great show because
Yeah.
they were playing with like-minded bands. I know
Hmm.
um, we had like Telepathy headline that,
That's
and
right.
actually, like for me, like I followed them for ages, and actually quite a lot of people were like, oh, these are new. And I was like, yeah, they are, but
Crazy, isn't it?
actually they fit really well and they did really well at that event. So it's sort of giving those bands that sort of think, well, actually, I've got nowhere to fit
Yeah.
in just yet, that platform,
Uh,
which I'm going to keep doing.
Tell me, how do you choose your bands, though? I mean, I know, like, we talk about it being underground, but there's still plenty of bands out there. Still
Yeah.
plenty of bands trying to, trying to make a break and trying to get onto shows like yourself, like onto Celestial Diadem. Like, I mean, how do you go about
Um,
choosing?
well, I guess obviously I had Mount Escape, which
Hmm.
was a really good sort of like starting point. And then the first gig I put them on was in London. So I was looking for, I guess, a local band at that point.
Okay.
And came across Tacoma Narrows, who headlined my first show. And then I think sort of just following that, it's just research. I've joined
Okay.
a lot of like Facebook groups.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like socials have been a huge like driving force for finding bands. I'm on Instagram, like searching,
Mm,
and actually it
mm.
got to the point where quite a few bands are now messaging me to check out their music, and if it's a fit, I'll say I have an opening slot. And it's quite nice because I'd like to I'd like to be able to be at a point where I can take bands and, you know, have them on a roster for some time and put them on as
Yeah.
openers, and then gradually, like through the Celestial Diadem program, they work up to, you know, main support headliners, and then I can pass them on to the next big thing. So I sort
There you
of
go.
organically just look for something, you know, that smaller niche, either just something I've stumbled across on Facebook, or
Mm.
maybe, like I said, a band has messaged. And then yes, go from there. The good thing about the next half day coming up is I put out a Facebook post and
Hmm.
said sort of what bands would people like to see. And actually, quite a lot of them, I think with the exception of about 2 bands, I'd heard before.
Okay.
And I'd always been thinking, I need to get them down. I need to get them down.
Yeah.
But it's hard because I want to put on everybody, but I only have 52 weekends in a year,
Yeah.
as well as other commitments. So yeah, it's tough,
But
but
that's it.
I'm
Like you do,
hoping for more, even more.
you talk about commitments. Like, I mean, you're a full-time teacher, as you said, like, just recently married. Like, I mean, life is busy enough for you. I mean, and to
Yeah,
try and push and promote this, like, can't be easy, but you seem to have the drive. Like, I mean, as you said, it grows obviously organically over time.
yeah,
Some people don't give these things time to grow.
yeah,
You obviously do, and you're sort of reaping the rewards. So obviously, if fans are hitting you up for gigs.
yeah, absolutely. I do. Yeah, it's getting bigger, which I
Yeah.
kind of thought. You know, when you start something new, having never done it before, having
Uh,
never been a promoter, you know, I've done enough gigs, and you know, you think you know how they work, and then you start, and you're like, oh
yeah.
God, actually, did I? Um, and actually, you know, it's something that I want to get to a point where I can teach less and gig more, because it's definitely way more fun, for
Yeah.
sure. So yeah, I already again have like even more gig plans,
Great.
and I don't have a wedding to plan for in 2024, so that's
There you go.
as much as it was delightful. I've just got
And as much as Dan was a help, was he?
oh, hardly. We've just got I'm just going to throw in a little house relocation. We're moving away from
Sure.
Reading, so I'm going to add that in. But
Why not? Why not?
you know, because that's how I
Yeah.
like my life. But yeah, more gigs for
Great.
sure. I've got a couple of potential releases. So Celestial Diadem is going to branch out into sort of like that label side of it. I've got a couple of bands for 2024 that I'm going to release some
Oh
albums,
wow,
which is
brilliant!
quite
And that
exciting.
you're actually getting ahead of me for questions I had, because I was going
Oh,
to ask, are you planning to sort of have this evolve and grow? Obviously, it's already well in the thought process, Tiff. Yeah.
yeah, essentially, I would like to get to a point where Celestial Diadem can be something that is much bigger, and actually is sort of the point that, you know, bands from Europe and things come through Celestial
Yeah.
Diadem to get into the UK post metal scene. As I said, I've got some potential releases that will happen in 2024,
Great stuff.
and we're going to move up to Birmingham. So the plan will be a couple of years down the line,
Yeah.
will be to get a studio up there as well,
Wow.
and sort of start developing that side. So kind of I want to be big. I'm like, go
Impressive.
big,
Impressive. You may as well. You may as well, Tiff. Like, and I
you
think
know.
there's no better person for it. You are so driven. It's incredible. Like,
Absolutely. Everybody
absolutely.
loves a trier, right?
Exactly. If you don't try, you'll always regret it. Like, that's the way it goes. No, come here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this show, the 1st of January, or the 26th of January and 27th. So it was a half day last year. I
Yeah.
suppose in typical Tiff fashion, you've upped the ante, and it's a night and an evening. Like, I mean, that's some boy.
Yes. Yes. So I did a classic half day 7 band bill on the Saturday in 2023.
Yeah.
And then yeah, was like, you know what, why not just, because so many bands messaged me, and loads of bands that played last year wanted to play again.
Okay.
So I've got
Okay.
some of, obviously, like some of the same bands on my roster, but I also wanted to open up more spaces for
Mm.
more bands. And actually, it's tiring as a promoter. So I was like, I couldn't do any longer on a Saturday. So let's add in a Friday evening, to sort of make it a bit more of an event.
Yeah.
So yes,
And
10
how was
bands. I've got one more band to announce, which is
still a
gonna
band to announce, is
I
there?
have another band to announce, yeah, because I'm all about giving, you know. So that's exciting.
And is that for the Friday night or the Saturday?
That would be for the Saturday. So it'd be
Excellent stuff.
a
I've been
midpoint on the Saturday. But I'm really looking forward to it.
great.
Again, it's already been in the planning for 6 months.
Yeah.
Also probably, if not, as I was wrapping up last year's, I was already thinking about this year's, as you do. But you've got to book these things in, because as a promoter, one of the hardest things is like getting venues that you want. And I really like going back to venues that I've worked in before. So 229 for the Saturday.
You just took my next question and on to
Oh,
you're incredible,
sorry.
incredible venues. I was going to ask you about anyway. It can't be easy to pick venues and get venues to commit to anything like this.
Yeah, it's tough, especially as I said, obviously coming out of the pandemic when I
Mm.
first started, it was tricky to get them because a lot of them were sort of just carrying over their calendar
Yeah.
from the previous year, so fill up. And to be fair, I pretty much penciled in 229 at the end of my event last year to do this
Okay.
again. I love 229. It's where I put on my very first gig, so it's got a soft spot for
And it's a
me.
great spot, actually. It is a great
Yeah,
spot.
I really
Yeah.
like it. And like the guys that work there, like Ben, like they are amazing, and
Mm.
they're like it makes putting on gigs a lot more enjoyable, and
Yeah.
takes a lot of the stress out when you've got venues who are really receptive to what you're
Hmm.
doing. Um,
So
but yeah, like
sorry,
it's
no,
got
Tiff. Tell me, how is there two different venues so for your Friday night and your Saturday? The Black Heart and obviously 229.
yeah, so Black Heart. So I had 229 picked, and then in fashion, it only was a little while where I was umming and ahhing about the Friday for a long time,
Okay.
thinking, is this a good idea? Is this not? Should I just stick to my half day? And
Hmm.
then was like, well, if I can get a venue, I'll do it. If not, then it was meant to be. And I think 229 had something on. So I was like, that's fine. I put on
Okay.
quite a lot of things at the Black Heart. I really like it there as well. And the guys working there are really cool. So I got in touch with them, and they were like, yes, absolutely, we'll have you. And I've got a lot of like appreciation for the Black Heart, because again, when I first started out, I remember putting on a gig and they were like, we never take new like unknown promoters at a weekend. And I was like, I hear you, but
Mm.
this is like post metal, it's very niche. I've got some very cool bands, and it was really successful. So it's really
Great.
nice because they always let me go back,
Great.
which is really cool. So
Excellent stuff.
that's why we're in two different places. Again, it's just venue availability. I've already got venues booked for like June, August. You have to book them so far in
And
advance.
tell me, are you looking countrywide for venues, or is everything sort of, are you trying to keep it within London and the surrounds?
Classic Tiff fashion, countrywide, going bigger,
I love it.
I'm
I
here.
love it. This is great.
Going bigger. So I've generally sort of done London and then the north, like Manchester,
Yeah.
Leeds, Birmingham. And it's quite nice because I've got some venues that I will now go back to, and I always like check out those first. But we're going to go further down south. We're going to go further up north, ideally Scotland, Wales. Try to get over to Ireland at some point in the pipeline.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then I'm in touch with some bands about branching out into some overseas ventures. So
Are you looking to take, again, I don't want to get carried away myself, not to mind you here, but are you looking to bring bands across the water somewhere else?
yes,
Wow.
essentially. So I'm in touch with. So I've got a couple of bands in the pipeline from Europe that I'm going to bring over this year.
Mhm.
Um, to and essentially almost do like gig swaps. So that means I can take a band over to Europe, or
Okay.
send a band over. But again, it is just like planning is planning. It's a very long time in the planning.
I would think so. I would
That
think
that
so.
isn't definitely like that's definitely not a 3 month turnaround. So
Like whatever,
um
whatever about the logistics in the UK, trying to, as you said, branch out into Europe. I mean, man, that can't be fucking easy. Like,
no, but I'm really excited. So we'll give it a go. We'll give it a go.
well, when you're
So,
saying, I'm assuming you've something in motion already. Anyway, to say that you seem so up for this. Like, I think there's something not too far away.
I think, well, yeah, so I'm looking at sort of something around the end of 2024. The thing is, we
Okay.
also have so many really good UK post metal bands that
Yeah.
actually like would go around like would go down so well
Mhm.
like in Europe. And it's just I think because I have that like organized nature, and that's the direction that I want to go in.
Mm.
Um I'm always like the sooner the better, why not? But like I feel like I've got the capacity to be able to sort of create those opportunities for
Mm.
those bands, and somebody's got to. And yeah, I'm gonna make that person me, Celestial Diadem.
Okay.
Um, because we've got some really good music. We've got a really good scene
Yeah.
brewing. That is definitely worth like sharing.
It is a healthy scene at the moment, I think, in the UK, especially for post
Yeah.
rock and post metal. Yeah, it definitely is. And even other subgenres that sort of roll off that. I mean, I know you said this is a post metal venture as such, like, but I mean, is there ever a stage you think where you'll be branching that out even for the foreseeable, maybe just?
Possibly, possibly. The thing is, it's really tough because obviously you've got things like Portals, you've got Art Tangent Festival,
Yeah.
and what they do, like they do it so well. You know, like you've got even Strange Forms up in up north,
Hmm.
um, and I don't think that any promoter starts this to think, well, I want to be bigger or better. We're not in competition with each other. It's
Yeah.
very much, you know, we want to do everything that we can to support bands. But I feel like I've got a unique opportunity at the moment because somebody else is doing it and doing it really well. So I can just focus on sort of being quite niche,
Hmm.
which I quite like
Yeah.
at the moment. I would never say never.
But that makes a lot of sense, though. That makes a lot of sense. Why, as you said, the likes of ATG, they're like, they're doing their thing. You're doing yours at the moment. It's working out brilliantly. Like, so,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
leave it for now. Um, you talked about venues again there. I'm sorry, just we talked about venues. Um, Costing. I mean, you have to look at the whole cost aspect of this whole thing. And I won't bog you down with figures or asking for facts, but this can't be an easy thing like to make money off. So is this sheerly down to the love of music, or do you need to make something from it to make it to sustain it? We'll say.
Hmm. I've been really fortunate that when I started Celestial Diadem, it was never for profit,
Mm-hmm.
for me personally. And obviously, I don't have a bank loan, I don't have a business loan. Everything that goes out for Celestial Diadem initially
Yeah.
was from my teaching salary.
Okay.
Um, I started off, and I'm currently still at a point where generally I will make sure that I break even on a
Yeah.
venue.
Yeah.
Um, and once I've broken even, I will pay bands first and foremost.
Okay.
And if I walk away with 20 quid for petrol in my car, that's absolutely fine because I have a full-time job. I can
Mm-hmm.
currently make that work. Um, I definitely think because it's something I want to grow, it's obviously going to get to a point where it has to be beneficial for me.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
but so moving forward, like that is what will happen. I'll start taking a cut. And I think that's what like working as a label
Mm.
um is obviously good. Like, it's me investing in bands,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I then actually will get the return when I'm putting on their album launch weekend gigs and their tours
Exactly.
because
Exactly.
I'm then getting ticket sales from that to boost what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think by having sort of a whole package, um, being a label, almost acting as their kind of booking agent, but they're
Mm-hmm.
not paying a
Yeah.
fee, and then putting on their gigs. I'm sort of keeping money within Celestial Diadem, but the intention will always be to reinvest it back into venues, reinvest it back into gigs, back into bands, supporting where I can, and just making sure that what I'm taking from it is paying my bills.
Mm.
I don't
Mm.
need to make thousands from it.
No.
It needs to just be affordable. It needs to get to a point where it can sort of like financially look after itself,
Yeah.
and give me some return on the side. I'm really lucky that I've always got teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I can always do
Yeah.
as well. But definitely at the moment, everything's going back to bands, and
That's
that's exactly
fantastic.
where I wanted it to be and what I wanted it to be. Bands getting something as well
Yeah.
as obviously getting this platform. So yeah, it's was started for the love of music, and it always will be that. I've got
Mm-hmm.
every intention of sort of sticking true to like that value because it
Yeah.
was really important, and I think it's what bands and fans like really appreciate potentially about Celestial Diadem.
Yeah, I don't want to sort of repeat myself too much, but it's an absolute credit what you do, like, and what you've created already, because I know plenty of people who've been involved in sort of PR and promotions and stuff. And when it starts to cost money, which it very invariably does, like it's not an
Yeah,
easy task
absolutely.
to keep your head above water with this, it disappears. And it's a pity because there's been so many good people I know that have tried and failed.
Mm.
And just to see what you're doing, and you've got your core values in the right place. It's all about the music, it's about the bands, anything else that falls your way comes your way. But I mean, there is a point where it has to be viably profitable if you want to expand this and make it grow. So I just think people need to really, really understand that side of it.
Yeah.
What you do is just it's Trojan work, like it really is.
I
For
think it's always something, and anybody who's watching, I'd always say as a plea, um, whenever I'm putting on a gig, pre-ticket sales scare me
Mhm.
because I look and think, "Hey, I got a gig in a week and I have sold 12 tickets
Yeah,
and I have bands to pay. And honestly, that money isn't coming to me, it's going to bands. But it is quite daunting as a promoter to think if I get to that gig, am I going to have those 12 people and three more people on the door, or
yeah,
am I going to get everybody? But also, like, I do appreciate that, we're in a cost of living crisis. It's really difficult. Um, but it's making sort of gigs affordable, and again, I think quite everybody who goes to gigs, does it for the love of music.
yeah.
And yeah, it's just keeping that at the heart and doing what we can.
So you would like people to buy early. It would,
Buy tickets in
yes, yeah,
advance. Yes.
exactly,
Also, they're
exactly.
cheaper. So,
And they're cheap anyway, Tiff. Like, let's be honest. I mean, again, I don't mean to disrespect anybody, but anybody could purchase a ticket with what you're charging and
yeah.
have it there. And it's something to look forward to. You have your ticket. There's a great event ahead. So I'd absolutely big shout out, lads. Anybody else? No, Jesus, get your ticket in advance and give everybody every chance to make this succeed,
Yeah.
you know. International bands, Tiff, I know you touched on it and I have it down in my list as a question to ask you. Um, you're obviously in touch with bands already, seemingly,
Hmm.
so you're ahead of the curve with me anyway here, but with regards to my questions.
Yeah.
That was obviously another way of growing this. And are these post metal bands again, post rock bands?
Yes.
Okay.
Um, I
How
don't
far?
want to like I don't want to say too much because
No,
obviously things
no.
are still in the pipeline. Um, but I have a couple of bands, yeah, that have been in touch, that I'm looking at. So I think I've got a band coming over from Belgium, potentially in September. Um, I think I've got a band coming over from France that we're trying to just figure out logistics. So I've got a couple of,
I'm already trying to work out.
yeah. So there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
That's all you're getting essentially. But yeah, generally in the sort of post metal, post
Great.
rock, the post scene, at this point for sure. But it'll be really nice because it will give UK bands an opportunity to jump on lineups as well. So that's like again, I want to open up more lineups to sort of more post metal bands. But also, like I was saying about this gig swap, it means that
Yeah.
hopefully I can take bands over and I've already got those contacts and networks
Mm.
in order to be able to support putting on shows and putting on tours, as
It's
well.
it's another way of networking, isn't it? Bringing them over and them
Absolutely.
over. Yeah, exactly. Just let it grow and let it grow.
Yeah.
Um, I want to just go back again before we move on to this show, this 2-day event. How are ticket sales going for that at the moment?
I
Do you
want to
mind?
say I think they're going well. I hope they're going well.
Yeah.
So I'm fortunate that I actually am not managing tickets for this event. So the
Okay.
venues are doing that for me.
Very good.
So I will check in over the next week to see how they're going. I'm hoping that based on last year's turnout, that it would be really good attendance again.
Yeah.
Um, I think we're doing I think we're doing fairly well
Good.
at the moment.
Good.
And this is always it. It's so hard to know in pre-ticket sales because I think last year I think I might have sold about 15 before, and then
What?
within the week before I'd sold about 60. So it's so hard to know.
For
I
last
like
for last year's half day, or that's how it went sales wise at the
yeah,
start.
yeah. So it's really scary.
Fuck,
And
that's
that's what I'm
scary.
saying. Like
Yeah.
it's a lot of risk when you look at. So sometimes I'm too scared to message venues and ask about my ticket sales updates because it scares me.
Yeah.
But then actually it all works out. And I think the good thing about half day is usually conveniently putting it on the weekend of a payday. So, you know, um,
Always thinking I like it.
it, and you know what? As a promoter, you have to think about things like that. You
Yeah.
have to think about, if I put on a gig, is it clashing with another big event that people have just bought tickets for?
Mhm.
What else is happening in town that weekend? Like, what am I up against? Is there a train strike? So I don't want
Yeah,
to
I
book a gig
know.
that
Yeah,
weekend. Can I
yeah.
predict that? Making tickets affordable as well. So as much as it is the logistics of getting bands to places, it's thinking, well, actually, when can I do this? And when are people going to engage with
Hmm.
buying tickets like the most? When is the best time to,
Yeah,
promote things
yeah.
and have a big event like this?
And
Well,
give it
big for me
that
anyway.
social media push. When's the right time to be pushed, which is probably constant, isn't it? Social
Yeah,
media. It's
absolutely,
working
absolutely. And
nonstop.
it's forever changing, like tapping into different algorithms and the time of day. You think I'll post on a Friday at 11:30. Well, everybody's trying to get all their stuff done before lunch because everybody know they'll be scrolling
Yeah.
in the afternoon. So actually there's so many small things that
There's
you have
so
to,
much to think about, isn't
yeah,
there?
that you have to
So
factor
much.
in all the time.
Well, tell me, do you have a list of the names of the bands playing, actually, the lineups for your 2 day festival or your 2 day event?
Yes, so on Friday,
Shout out.
at the Black Heart on the 26th, we have a London band, Air. They're opening. We've got main support from The Grey, who I love. And then we've got Pleiades
Nice.
headlining. And I'm super stoked to see them because I've been meaning to put them on for forever.
Great
And
stuff.
so that's going to be a big one for me. And then on the Saturday, 27th at 229,
Uh-huh.
we have, oh my God, there's so many. I've already
Last of
forgotten.
Eden, anywhere
Um,
headlining? Am I right?
huh?
Last of Eden.
Yes, so Last of Eden are headlining that again, which is really nice. And I've been meaning to catch one of their shows, but they always just fall at a time that doesn't work. So I'm super looking forward to that.
Great.
Obviously, we've got Mountainscape,
Absolutely.
Din of Celestial Birds, and then I bring over some bands got some bands on that I've not had before. So I've got Fort
Hmm.
that I've seen live that are incredible. I've got A Million Moons that are coming together for that. And I have Time in Antarctica, which I love, but also discovered on that comment thread on one of the posts.
All right. Very good.
Yeah, so bringing bands for the people.
Ah, that's
And then,
great.
yes, as I said, I've got one more to
To
announce
be
for
announced.
that.
Like there's two new ones to me anyway, straight away: A Million Moons and Time in Antarctica. I wouldn't be familiar with. So, look, as much as I love to see the bands that are already on the roster that I know, I'm
Yeah,
so looking forward to hearing new music because that
yeah.
happened last year for me. The Grey I wouldn't have been too familiar with, So it's an
I guess
incredible
it's a
line.
nice thing that even though they're new, they are gonna. I feel like I could almost say they're gonna be something that you like because
Yeah,
they're in that genre,
there you go.
they're in that scene. So um,
There's not that fear of not liking the style of music as you said, you're keeping it niche.
yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. Which also really works for them as bands. Then I think
Yeah.
like they're looking forward to it too. So
Fantastic. Fantastic. It's going to be an
yeah,
incredible show or two shows. I can't wait for it.
yeah, it's gonna be a good weekend.
It is. Tiff, come here. I want to just throw a couple of questions at you before you leave there, just for a bit of fun.
Yeah,
Let's see how you get on with these. At this moment in time, right? At this
yeah.
moment in time, who would be your dream band to headline a Celestial Diadem show? And think big if you want. Think as big as you can.
Um,
Too many to think of?
Too many to think. I'd really like to. I think there's a couple of bands like in America. Like I'd really like to work with a band like Caspian,
Yeah.
a band like Tides from Nebula. Would be really cool.
Nice.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, they'll do me. Those two answers
they'll
will do me
probably
perfectly.
my
Right.
next two
Very
goals.
nice. Very nice. Right. What has been your favorite performance so far under the Celestial Diadem shows?
Oh
Whose
God.
performance stood out? For you personally, like, is there one?
Oh my God. There's been so many. I think the half day went really well. Like I'm
Mhm.
really pleased with the success. And actually, what I really enjoyed about that was how much everybody else enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think was a really amazing thing. I put on Din of Celestial Birds, uh, Mountainscape, and Under a Crumbling Moon
Oh, yes.
for a little weekender. We did a couple of gigs, and I played in
Right.
Cambridge for the first time at the Six
Oh,
Six, and that was a really cool gig.
great.
Um, so
Yeah,
yeah, they were really
that was
cool.
a tough question. It's probably a bit of an unfair question.
No,
Right. Tell me, have you an album of the year for 2023? Or can you just name drop a couple of albums that you were
Yeah, so
happy
like the
with?
Novir album that we mentioned earlier when that came out,
Savage, yeah.
was amazing. It was really good to see those guys do that because I know they worked like super hard on that and they were
Mm,
really keen.
mm,
Dinner Celestial Birds album is on like rinse repeat in my car all the time.
yeah.
Last of Eden, obviously. I've got that also burning a hole in my ceiling fan.
Like listen to the albums that we're talking about here and the bands and the quality of the albums they've released. And
Absolutely.
they're all at this 2 day event. I mean, like this is really a no-brainer for people who are in the scene, lads. It really isn't.
Yeah.
Three great answers. Fair play to you, Tiff.
Thank
Fair
you.
play to you. That was too easy for a person like you anyway. But look, I suppose I want to thank you for coming on the show. It's nice to showcase something a little different. You know, it's not always about the bands. It's about what happens in the background and the people who put in their hard graft and their hard work. As much as they love it, it still needs to be noted, I think, and appreciated. So, Tiff, I wish you all the best for this 2 day event on the
Thank you.
26th and 27th, lads. Blackheart on the 26th, 229 on the 27th. I'll be there myself. Tiff, thanks a mil.
Thank you so much for having me and see you in January. I'm looking forward
See you
to
in
it.
January. Exactly. There you go, guys. Celestial Diadem Promotions and PR. Keep your eyes peeled because there's big things happening there, I'd say. Thanks to everybody else who tuned in. Thanks to Richie from the Metal Cell who edits and produces the show. Catch you on in a couple of weeks. Take care.